Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. Hope everyone's doing well this evening and is ready to kind of tuck in to a nice segment about what's been a brilliant weekend of Bundesliga football as per usual. Mark, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, not bad at all. Yeah, it's been an incredible weekend in the Bundesliga this week, hasn't it? Yeah, absolutely brilliant games. Yeah, still getting over it, really. It's actually been a bank holiday here in Germany for the German National Day, the German Reunification Day. So, yeah, just been like chilling, really. And yeah. And what about you, Rory?
Yeah, all good my side. Still getting over the last minute drama that occurred in Wolfsburg. That was quite unpleasant, and indeed getting over a rather miserable weekend for all my football teams, which I shan't mention.
Yeah.
At least we won the second half, and that's what matters, isn't it? Anyway, Bundesliga football. Of course, tonight's show we are in partnership with the brilliant Bundesliga boxes, and as we mentioned during watch along on Friday, you can now head over to Bundesliga boxes and get yourself a Christmas box pre-ordered. They're live on the website, and indeed, if you want to get to the website, you can go through Twitter as well by searching Bundesliga boxes. Fantastic company, so make sure you go over and get yourself sorted ahead of Christmas. And on top of that, please indeed do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the brilliant content that's coming out. We've got Matchday vlogs from the Football League. We've got Bundesliga content, the Football League World Show, Spanish content, you name it, we've got it. So please do comment along if you're watching live. Let us know your thoughts on the Bundesliga action so far this weekend and smash a like on the video as well. So over to you, Mark. Do you want to quickly just lead us through the scores from the weekend, and then we shall get right on with our featured four analysis.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously starting off with our Friday night watch along, it was that 4-0 win for Bayern over struggling Leverkusen. Moving on to Saturday, another 4-0 win for Leipzig. Not so much of a surprise this time though, over badly struggling Bochum. Freiburg getting another win to go joint top actually now. They got a 2-1 home win over Mainz. FC Köln in a classic 3-2 win over Borussia Dortmund, consigning them to their third defeat of the season. Then obviously Frankfurt getting that battle at the top, a 2-0 win, consigning Union Berlin to their first defeat of the season. Then moving on into the evening game, it was that 5-1 win for Werder Bremen versus Borussia Monchengladbach. And moving on to the Sunday games, we had that 1-1 draw between Hertha Berlin and Hoffenheim, and then one of the best games of the weekend. It was Schalke 2, Augsburg 3. So yeah, what a weekend of action. And let's start off with one of the best games of the weekend. It was that 3-2 win for Wolfsburg over Stuttgart. Obviously, Stuttgart still without a win now in 8 games. Obviously, 5 of them have been draws, so they do have 5 points on the board. But before the start of play, both sides only had 5 points from the first 7 games. But now, obviously, Wolfsburg have 8 from 8. The table looks a little bit better for them. Obviously, climbing to 13th place. Stuttgart, once again, in that kind of bottom 3 where they spent most of last season as well, finally coming out on the last day. It seems like this season's going to be the same. But yeah, as for the game, it was a case of Stuttgart missing a lot of chances, really, wasn't it? And a couple of goalkeeping errors, really, I would say, for Wolfsburg. Obviously, that man Guirassy, who looks quite good to me, actually, he gave Stuttgart an early lead after both sides have missed chances early on. But then the lead lasted only about 30 seconds after former Stuttgart man Omar Mamouche hit a really good shot, actually, into the bottom corner. Not that much that Florian Müller could have done, although it was at his near post, so maybe he could have done a bit better. But probably the big talking point of the match, really, was when Maxi Arnold let leash from about 30 metres out. And, I think I'd have saved this one, in all honesty. I think you will probably, Rory, too. And, Florian Müller, he kind of goes for it with his hands like that, but it just bounces off his hands and ends up in the back of the net. And it's not good enough goalkeeping, is it? That's 2-1. But actually, Stuttgart did hit back through Mavropanos from a good header on the stroke of half-time. So it was 2-2 at half-time. Guirassy struck the bar again in the second half. Really unlucky, actually. Should have been... He seems to hit the bar a lot, doesn't he? And Stuttgart haven't had the rub of the green at times. But sure enough, just as we're going into injury time, Gellert gets on the end of a cross and puts the ball into the back of the net for a 3-2 home win. The first home win of the season for Wolfsburg, only the second of the season. So, Rory, what do you think? I mean, obviously, Stuttgart, no win in 5. Is it going to be a long season? And what did you make of this match today, this weekend?
Well, it was the first half that was very kind of end-to-end and quite exciting. I think the second half was a lot more docile, as both teams were quite nervous about going for the win or not. I think obviously looking back on it now, the main thing that sticks out is obviously the Florian Muller error for Arnold's goal, which obviously is a howler. He's really lost his confidence and dropped form. He can make these really good saves, but at the same time, his concentration seems to dip as well. From a routine shot from Arnold, hit well, but as any goalkeeper should be saving that. I don't know if he underestimates it. I'm not sure you can defend it. But at the end of the day, that error is the difference between getting a point and not. All these things kind of add up against Stuttgart at the moment. And they're not playing badly. I'll keep on saying it. They're not performing badly on the pitch, but they just have forgotten how to win games. Mavropanos' goal was a nicely worked short free kick. The first goal had an element of luck in it, I guess, where Ito's kind of cross was deflected into the path of Girassi. And we, as you mentioned, we struck the bar. I think it was Silas actually who hit the bar in the second half. Endo had a really good chance as well. Mavropanos had another shot. So there were certainly chances for Stuttgart as there were for Wolfsburg. It was a really entertaining game. To concede like the way they did at the end of the game was so disappointing, because a draw wouldn't have been a terrible result for Stuttgart. It would have kept them outside the relegation zone, albeit obviously that Schalke loss as well, and the heavy defeat for Leverkusen, which you imagine are going to climb eventually. So right now it feels like Stuttgart or Schalke for the second automatic relegation spot, and that's quite a horrible feeling. Wolfsburg, hugely important win for them. They, as Nico Kovac referred to, they hadn't been doing a lot of the basics of football in terms of the passion, the hunger, doing the basics of football, working hard off the ball, and they did a lot more of that. But again, if Stuttgart could have defended the lead that they got in the first half a little bit longer, the crowd, who were quite quiet anyway, would have got even more quiet. Not much confidence in the team, and I think Stuttgart could well have grown into the match and won it, but conceding so quickly afterwards was a killer by Marmoush as well. It had to be, hadn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting that you mentioned the crowd as well, because I mean, Wolfsburg fans are not known to be like the strongest home crowd in the Bundesliga, and I think Nico Kovac does have to win them over, doesn't he? And he's not doing that so well at the moment. But this is obviously the first home win of the season. Next weekend they play Augsburg away, which a game I will be at, by the way. Actually, Augsburg v Wolfsburg. Yeah, so looking forward to see them playing live. Obviously, Augsburg, we'll talk more about them later, but they're one of the form teams of the league, so it could be a good game. You never know. Both sides going into that on a win. Yeah, just a couple of questions as well in the chat. Yeah, from Ballum and one of our regular viewers. Yeah. Watch along from you two in the Dortmund and Bayern match on Saturday and the Leipzig and Celtic in match 2. Yeah, you're very demanding, Ballum, I think. Yeah, yeah. But we'll definitely have some more watch-alongs coming for you. But we don't usually do the games on Saturdays because obviously they aren't televised in Germany. That's the problem. So, yeah, it's that's a slight problem. I think it is a Saturday afternoon game, isn't it, or is it Saturday evening?
I presume it would be the Saturday evening late.
If it's Saturday evening, yeah, it's possible. But I think if it's Saturday daytime, yeah, we'll have to double check that one. But yeah, the Leipzig Celtic match, yeah, we might have to have a think about that one, Rory, and we'll let you know.
Lots of good suggestions, Ballum. We'll certainly take them into account and see what we can do.
And we definitely have a lot more watch-alongs. We actually had a good conversation about that, and we've got some more of them in the pipeline as well. Yeah, I think also, another point from Balam on this day, 1990, West Germany and East Germany ended 45 years of division. Yeah, I think you put that very well. Yeah, it is actually a big day here in Germany as well, the day of the unification.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's if any of you know about the history of Germany, it is a very important day here in Germany. So good that Balam also knows his football and his history as well. So yeah. Great. So yeah, let's swiftly move on to the next game of the weekend, which was, of course, the Köln v Dortmund, which was a 3-2 classic as well. Yeah, I mean, this game was we often use this cliche, but it was a classic game of two halves, wasn't it? I mean, in the first half, Dortmund could have been well clear if it wasn't for that man, Daniel Marlon, who had a bit of a stinker in truth. Missed a hatful of chances and just still isn't quite able to turn his time at Dortmund into a success, really. And it was a poor performance from him. But they did go in the break ahead. And it was through that man, Julian Brandt, got on the end of a good move to put them 1-0 ahead. But they missed, as I say, a host of chances. I think in the first half, Florian Kainz, who went on to have a brilliant second half, he fizzed a shot just wide just before half time. But yeah, basically in the second half, they just nailed it, really, didn't they? The home side. Florian Kainz got on the end of a good move to make it 1-1. Tigges headed in a corner just a couple of minutes after to make it 2-1. And then probably the form man, really, Lubicic, knocked a brilliant effort from 25 yards past Meyer, and then all of a sudden Dortmund are wondering how the hell are we 3-1 down after dominating the first half. They did get a lucky consolation through an own goal from Benno Schmidt, which kind of looped up and over Schwabe. But yeah, I think overall Köln, on the back of that second half, they deserved the win, Rory, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They're a completely different team coming out in the second half. I think Stefan Baumgart had promised a festival of football prior to the game, and well, the first half wasn't quite that for the home side. They really didn't turn up, or whether you kind of give the credit to Dortmund because they were equally very impressive in the way that they played football, being led by at the forefront of it by 19-year-old captain Jude Bellingham. The Englishman being given the nod in Marco Reus's absence. I think he did a really good job as well. And of course, he set up the first goal for Julian Brandt, and some nice footwork by Brandt to wriggle his way through to put Dortmund ahead. But as you mentioned, one thing they'll be kicking themselves about is just they weren't clinical enough. Obviously, Daniel Marlon had a number of chances to make it 2 or 3-0. I think Adeyemi had a really good chance as well in the first half. Schwaber was equally good in net. So, yeah, it was incredibly important that I think it went in a 1-0. You could already feel maybe the nerves of Dortmund as the second half came out, because you just know that Köln at some point under Baumgart, they will turn up in a match. It was a similar sort of thing to when Stuttgart played Köln, because Stuttgart really dominated Köln in the first half until they got a red card, of course. But then the pressure came on. They turned up. They realised, okay, we need to impress. You need to do better here. So, everything they did, the goal, from Kainz, swept in really nicely. Great move. Going back to basics, a corner nicely flicked in by Tigges, and everyone was talking about the Modeste derby. Obviously, Anthony Modeste coming back to his old club, and he was the kind of the passenger, really, and Tigges showed his aerial prowess, and maybe Dortmund will be kicking themselves a little bit for letting him go, but obviously is one thing that made sense at the time. And yeah, Rota his deflected cross got them back into it for a little while. But yeah, it's one of those games that Dortmund would think, how did we lose this in the end? But all credit to Cologne for that second half, and it's won them an incredibly important 3 points, and it keeps Dortmund off top spot. And yeah, as a result, the black and yellows will be kicking themselves because they had a great opportunity to go top of the league over the weekend, and it's yet another opportunity that slips. I think you probably question a little bit of the game management again, maybe by Terzic. He's still quite young and inexperienced in that regard. So, yeah, not a tremendous amount of positives to take for Dortmund, but now that we're into this really manic period of playing football, it's going to be, twice a week, all the time relentlessly for them. So they just got to pick themselves up and go again in the Champions League and hope that they can start to get some more steady form and be a lot more clinical, because that's obviously the key thing in this game.
Yeah, and as you say, that is 3 defeats out of 8 now. It was a problem last season as well for them. They won a lot of games, but they couldn't grind out those draws, or they couldn't grind out those kind of gritty wins. And once again today, they still don't quite have that backbone, do they? Despite the fact, I think Özcan has done really well when he's come in, obviously playing against his former club as well. A lot of people forgot about that. There were 2 players in the Dortmund side that were plying the trade for FC Köln last season, Özcan and Modeste. I think Özcan has done really well, but Modeste he's just having a bit of a nightmare out there, really, for Dortmund, isn't he? I think he's got 1 goal in 8 games just in the league, and I think if you include the Champions League, 1 goal in 10, which is simply not good enough when you're replacing a guy like Erling Haaland, is it really? But I think there are positives for Dortmund to take out of the game, and they played well in the first half, but it's just they're not taking the chances, and then they're always likely to concede at the other end. I think it was a legendary second half performance from Köln. You've got to give them a lot of credit. I mean, they had 9 shots on target in that second half against Dortmund. It's just ridiculous, really. And to be honest, they could have won easier in that second half. I think Maya made a few good saves on top of the 3 goals as well. So, yeah. Brilliant from Köln. That was probably their best performance of the season for me, especially in the second half. And, they're going well again. They're in 7th, only 1 defeat. Probably a few too many draws, but if they can start turning a few of those draws into wins, they could be chasing for Europe again this season. And, fantastic job by Baumgart, despite losing 2 of his key players from last season, obviously. So, their train just keeps running, doesn't it, really? So, yeah, let's move on to the second game, which is, a wonder game for one team and a nightmare for the other. And it's quite ironic because obviously we had Manuel on, didn't we, who was a big Gladbach fan, and we were saying how well they were doing under Daniel Farke. And, it seems as though the commentators curse, so to speak, doesn't it? Because this was the definition of an absolute horror show from Gladbach. I mean, they were literally 3-0 down after 13 minutes in this game. And it's just... and full credit to Werder Bremen. We've talked a lot under Olive Werner, just how good they've been, really. And, most of the games, they kind of come in strong at the end of matches. But in this match, they came flying out of the blocks from the first minute. And they already had a couple of chances by the chance that Nicholas Füllkrug, who's been absolutely brilliant this season, I've got to say. There were big question marks over whether he could take his good form in this fighter into the Erste. And he's absolutely done it so far. And I think he's been brilliant. He got on the end of a good move from his strike partner, Marvin Duksch. Again, Duksch is another player who's had a little bit of criticism for his finishing, but he has actually done a lot of good build-up work as well this season. And he eventually got his first goal of the season after, I would say, some pretty questionable goalkeeping in this case from Jan Sommer. He kind of tackles the striker, literally tackles him with a slide tackle, and the ball goes straight to Marvin Duksch, who basically just has an open net. The big celebrations, obviously he's finally got that monkey off his back with his goal. I think his performances have been better than his goal tally, to be honest. And when you've got a guy like Füllkrug who's banging the goals in left, right and centre, then, he's a pretty good side act, really, to the main man. And it was that man again, Füllkrug, who got the third goal through a good move again, just tapping into pretty much an empty net, really, wasn't it? Then, actually, Gladbach did have a couple of good chances through Lars Stindl. He had 2 chances and he couldn't quite find the back of the net. Should have been putting at least one of them away. If he could have put one of them away, and go in at 3-1, then maybe Gladbach might have had a chance at pulling something back. But soon after that, ball comes in, and then what is Rami Bensebaini doing? He's another player that the Gladbach fans have been really happy with this season, but he ends up just kind of sticking out his leg and back heeling the ball into the back of the net past Sommer. And at 4-0 after 37 minutes, it was well and truly game over, wasn't it? Gladbach did reply through a good finish from Marcus Thuram to make it 4-1, but actually it was Werder who had the final say again, and it was one of the best players of the season as well, Mitchell Weiser, my fantasy football hero. Every week he's been getting me 15, 17 points minimum. He ends up getting his first Bundesliga goal for Werder Bremen to make it 5-1. And, the big celebrations at the Weserstadion at the end of the game, Rory, and what a performance from Werder Bremen.
Yeah, they were brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Obviously, at times had to soak up a little bit of Gladbach pressure, but yeah, I do feel like maybe the curse of the show has struck once more. With I do feel sorry for Manuel, because obviously we had him on the show, and we were waxing lyrical about Gladbach, about how these kind of mystery performances had kind of evaporated from their being since Farker had taken over, and just the week after we have him on the show, that happens. Maybe they just weren't ready for what Werder were going to bring. They were so on it from the first whistle. As you mentioned, 3 goals up within 13 minutes. Füllkrug has been a revelation so far this season. So good in the air, but all his other kind of parts of his game look to have improved significantly since his last spell with Werder, when they got relegated 2 seasons ago, to which he didn't have as good a time. You know, it's the first time that Bremen have seen off Gladbach for a long time, as you can see. So really important win for them. I think their first win at home as well this season. So, you know, it gave the fans an amazing kind of evening to watch. So, yeah, fantastic. Obviously, some questionable defending by Gladbach. Ben Sabaini, obviously, the own goal is just crackers. Under no pressure whatsoever. It's a good cross again. Füllkrug, you can take credit for it, because he got an assist and 2 goals, and practically a second assist with the cross. I think there's a communication thing there. You know, why is Sommer or why is the centre backs not telling Ben Sabaini that he can bring the ball down? He can do anything. There's no pressure on him whatsoever. So that finish, it was a good finish by him, but in the wrong net. Typically, as probably a lot of people have brought him into their fantasy team as well. So obviously the own goal, but the third goal as well, there's just a long, hopeful ball forward by Werder. The Gladbach defence allowed the ball to bounced over the centre half, it then bounced in an awkward way to Ben Sabaini, who tries to head it backwards to Sommer, doesn't have enough power on it, so through on goal goes Dusk, but he does well to turn, hold the ball up, and then, as you mentioned, Mark, set up his strike partner Füllkrug, who's getting all the plaudits for his goals, top goal scorer in the Bundesliga. Like, there's a lot to be loving right now for Werder Bremen, and it's something that we probably looked at in our pre-season shows about maybe would they get enough goals, but they've been the complete opposite, haven't they? They've been unreal going forward, so dangerous. Weiser getting forward and scoring goals, like just playing on the break, sucking up all that pressure from Gladbach, who really should have made it 4-2 or 4-3, really, with the chances they had. Weren't clinical enough, and Werder just came out, so yeah, we'll suck a punch, we'll get our 5th, and we'll be away with the 3 points. So amazingly impressive performance. It was really entertaining game to watch. As much as the scoreline was one-sided, Gladbach did have a lot of chances, as you mentioned, Mark. So yeah, thoroughly entertaining Saturday night football. What more could you want from that?
Yeah, and as you say, like Werder Bremen's second top scorers in the league with 18 goals from 8 games. Like, nobody saw this would be possible, you know. But a lot of that's got to go down to Ole Werner, the manager. Like, he's been absolutely brilliant, you know. And they play some really good football. Like, some of the goals they scored were really, really good. You know, it's not like they're just getting like scrappy headers off corners. The football is really good, especially from Füllkrug and Dutch, and obviously Weiser have been like the kind of star men, but it's been a great effort, you know, and they actually could easily have more points than they do at the moment. I think Werder, and the very, very, very good start to the season, I would say. And obviously 8th place, that was the 3rd win of the season, only 2 defeats. And, you know, I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the relegation dogfight by the end of the season for me. Okay, yeah, just a couple of comments as well coming in from Ballon. Yeah, Mainz linked with Wolverhampton today. So obviously Bo Svensson, the Mainz manager. I thought Rory was taking the Wolves manager job because he speaks Portuguese. Is that right? Or... I don't know where you've got that one from, Ballon.
I presume he means that Bo Svensson speaks Portuguese, because I certainly do not.
Obrigado.
Yes, that's probably how far it goes.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't see him leaving Mainz personally. I think he was actually linked with Brighton, supposedly. But I think, Rory, do you see any truth in that one? And if so, do you think that Bo's fans going to be tempted by Wolves, or do you think he'd rather stay in the Rhineland-Pfalz with Mainz?
I mean, there would be a temptation of sorts, I'm sure, but I can't. I don't see it happening at the moment. I haven't seen any more concrete rumours since the last few hours, at least. But there's obviously an appeal to it. But why would you move away? Mainz, the project that he's done at Mainz, the work that he's done at Mainz is fantastic. So yeah, I wouldn't anticipate it being, too overly appealing, but money talks, doesn't it? So yes, interesting kind of rumor, as they always are. But for me at the moment, I hope he stays put at Mainz, because they've got a lot going for them right now.
Yeah, I think he's got a kind of job for life, really, at Mainz. He's one of those kind of managers. But I guess the money will be a lot better at Wolves. Obviously, Mainz not the richest club by any means in the Bundesliga, and Wolves, I think any team in the Premier League would be able to easily double or even triple his wages, to be honest. So that could be a temptation. But I personally hope he stays at Mainz, really. Yeah. Anyway, you're going to beat him to it anyway, Rory, aren't you? So.
Well, yeah, I'd take the money and run myself. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you better still come on the Bundesliga show every.
Oh yeah, no, I'd stay true to the pod. Yeah, stay true to the show all the time. Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the game of the weekend, and what a game this was. This was a Sunday night treat, and for me, this just sums up the Bundesliga in a nutshell. I think nobody would have looked at this game and thought this is going to be a classic, but it really was. This was an absolutely brilliant watch. Two sides who are just they were tearing pieces out of each other. I just love how Enrico Maaßen, I think I said it to you, Rory, how he's turned them into right. They're absolute a terrible team. I can't use the word.
Can't use the word,
but yeah, we'll probably get censored. But yeah, they've turned into a horrible team to play against, but in a good way. A side that in the past would kind of give up at times, wouldn't they? In the past, but nowadays they fight for every single ball. Augsburg, and as you say, in this game, they were 2-0 up, within around about 20 minutes. And you think it's going to be another comfortable win, 3 wins out of 3. But, Schalke, for what they lack at times in quality, they do make up for in effort, I think, and they did get back into the game before halftime through that man, Terodde, who, to be fair, he's another one that a lot of people thought, can he step up from this fighter? I think that's his 3rd goal of the season so far. So he's doing a half-decent job. Not quite as well as Füllkrug, but he is doing some kind of job there. But obviously, the home side also got level as well through a slightly fortuitous effort from Tom Krause. It did deflect, but it was a really good move, to be fair, from Schalke. Then the big moment, it looked as though it was all falling apart for Augsburg when Berisha, who, by the way, I've got to say, looks a good signing for them. He really had some fight, but this time he did go a little bit too far, and he ended up getting a second yellow through a kind of elbow, really. It was one of them where it was probably a right decision to give him the second yellow, and he was off after 71 minutes. Mainz were going, I keep saying Mainz, but Augsburg were going absolutely crazy at this point. As you can see, Demirovic got booked, Gumny got booked soon after, and you think, it's just a matter of time before Schalke go on and win this. But no, it was the other way, and it was a really well-worked goal. Gumny with a nice crossing, and Andre Hahn, as Ballum said in the comments, he's turned into a bit of a Bundesliga legend, like a cult hero, really, isn't he, Andre Hahn? And he headed it home really, really well to the huge celebrations on the Augsburg bench with Enrico Maaßen. He's really kind of instilled a passion into that club, which maybe they didn't have the last couple of years for me. And, I just absolutely love Gikiewicz at the moment. He's turned into an absolute badass, isn't he? Literally, every time they win a game, he gives it to the fans of the other team behind the goal. Poulter went over to him and dragged him away. They've turned into the kind of the crazy gang Wimbledon of the Bundesliga a little bit nowadays, or the Stoke of more recent times. They really have but I love it, to be honest. Augsburg are a side that I never previously enjoyed watching until this season. But I've watched a few of their games now this season. I do enjoy watching them. They play a little bit more football as well, but also they can get stuck in and really kind of I think Demirovic was brilliant and he's been good all season. Berisha was good, but unfortunately he's going to miss the game when I see them next week, which is a pity because I do like the look of that Berisha-Demirovic partnership. It's a little bit different to what we usually see from an Augsburg side, who are more like direct in most cases, aren't they? Obviously, last season they had Grigorovic, who moved on to Freiburg and has done well for them. But I do believe this partnership has made them a bit more attacking and a little bit more entertaining to watch. But what do you make of this one, Rory? I mean, what a win that is in the end for Augsburg, really.
Yeah, tremendous win, really. And, the goals that they scored, of a high caliber as well. I mean, the second goal from Demirovic, just how coolly just kind of glides the ball in off his left foot first time from the cross. Like he was just doing it, in the park with his mates. Like, it was so nonchalant about it. So really, really classy. And I know we were talking about towards the start of the season about, the trade that happened between Augsburg and Freiburg, obviously the Gregorovic switch with Demirovic, and we were saying, the ultimate winners out of this are Freiburg, great bit of business, but they both now scored 4 Bundesliga goals each. So they are, starting to prove on both sides that they're quality players and they're fitting into a certain system. So it looks like a win-win for both teams, which is great because you don't often get that when you have swaps or things like that between certain teams. But yeah, again, when they went down to 10 men, you just expect them to fall apart or for Schalke to go for the win. Hugely disappointing that Schalke, didn't get a point from this game. They'll be absolutely gutted about that because they showed, as you mentioned, great fighting spirit to get themselves back into the game, and to Rory again on the score sheet. And it was, like you mentioned, it was a bit of a nasty game. As you can see on the screen, there was lots of bookings for unsportsmanlike behaviour, lots of kind of aggy moments. So yeah, it was a really interesting game to watch and brilliant for a Sunday afternoon to really kind of fire you up, really. But yeah, hugely important for Augsburg. I think the one thing that we always say with them is we're worried about them scoring goals because obviously they scored 8 goals in 8 games now. But I mean, if you take off the three that they scored this weekend and indeed the one that they scored against Bayern, which you might not necessarily expect them to score, that's 4 goals again across 6 games, if I can get the words together, which obviously is ultimately a lot less. It's under 1 goal per game. So, they've increased that now and they need to keep on working on that and keep on being a really hard team to beat. And exactly as Balam has mentioned in the comments, Augsburg simply don't get relegated, or they just they hate it so much they just somehow don't do it. And they just got the talent for it. They pick up these wins and you think, at the end of the season, how did Augsburg not get relegated? But you look back on it, you say, these wins, these brilliant wins, this might be the win that keeps them up. You just don't know come the end of the season. How important will that header be from Andre Hahn? Who knows? But thoroughly entertaining game. And it was a brilliant way to round off a magnificent weekend of Bundesliga football.
Yeah, and 3 back-to-back wins for Augsburg now. It's not often we say that. But as I say, I agree with some of your points, Rory, but I do believe they're kind of developing as a side under Martin. And they are early on in the season, they didn't start well, did they? I remember they got absolutely thumped by Freiburg at home on the first day. And they looked like it was going to be another typical Augsburg season. But just especially the last 2 performances, and also the win at Werder Bremen, which was very, very gritty as well. And I just think it could maybe set the sights a little bit higher than just staying up. Maybe a mid-table finish is possible this season. I think they are currently in 10th with 4 wins from 8 games, and a few of them have been really impressive wins too. So they won away at Leverkusen, they beat Bayern Munich, and I just see what I see at the moment is very positive for them under Enrico Maaßen. But got to say, as for Schalke, I mean, this is why so many people were happy to see Werder Bremen and Schalke back in the Bundesliga. This kind of entertainment, absolutely packed out stadiums, like 50, 60,000 every week, no matter how the team's going. This is why a lot of people were so happy to see them, and why a lot of people said that both of these teams need to be in the Bundesliga. And probably you'd add Hamburg into that, and I couldn't agree more. Really, if you compare their atmosphere to say a Wolfsburg, you know what I mean? With all due respect to Wolfsburg, you just can't compare it, really. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is why these kind of fans like push players on to produce these brilliant performances like we saw from Werder and Augsburg this week. So, yeah. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything for this week. So, yeah, if you enjoyed what you saw on the Bundesliga show, then remember to check out our Twitter, @OverTheBarFB and @OverTheBarExtra. Also, our OTBfootball.net, which is the main centerpiece of our work. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're slowly getting towards 700. We've had a good week of subs this last 7 days. So, you know, keep recommending us to your friends and stuff if you enjoy what we do. And, yeah, we'll see you on Thursday again for the Fantasy Football Show. So, see you then, guys.
Cheers all.